Oskar Ziesig, born in 1919 in Gelsenkirchen, Germany near Essen, recounts his life and career as a Luftwaffe pilot during World War II in this August 13, 2004 interview conducted in Australia. When Oskar was 14, the National Socialists came to power in Germany during a period of economic hardship and political instability following World War I. With around 34 parties unable to resolve hyperinflation and unemployment, support increased for radical groups such as the Communists and National Socialists. Oskar's family, especially his father, a World War I veteran who lost an arm, supported the National Socialists over the Communists, seeing them as a solution to unite workers and address the burdens of the Versailles Treaty. Political discussions were common at home, and Oskar witnessed confrontations between Communists and Nazis during demonstrations.
But my father supported the National Socialists, not the Communists, That was how it was, And most of the time, especially war casualties, they only supported the National Socialists. And even our neighbor, he lost his leg. So my father lost the arm, and the next door neighbor lost his leg. Both were supporting the National Socialists. And actually, to this time, these people, they were very, very honest people and very much involved in it, and they thought they are doing the right thing, because no one wanted the communists.
Oskar joined the Hitler Youth, specifically the Flying Hitler Youth, as it aligned with his interest in aviation and provided free glider training. From ages 15 to 16, Oskar began practical glider training through a local club in his hometown. Oskar attended courses, including at Wasserkuppe, Germany's famous gliding site, where he completed the sea test with 5 one-minute flights, including figure 8 turns.
It called itself the National Socialist Flying Corps. In the Hitler Youth, they had some groups too, which they called them the Flying Hitler Youth. And so I joined them and had practically got all my flying for nothing, I didn't have to pay for anything. By 1936, I had already my license, my glider flying license. Then I was already at a few glider flying schools. And then I had in the Borkenberge, that is actually a glider flying area near my town. And there I had a very good instructor. It was one of the best glider pilots to this time. His name was Ludwig Hoffmann. He was a test pilot too. And he took me under his arms and brought me up here to the International Silver Sea, which I made in 1936. All conditions I filled in 1936. And the conditions were a duration flight of about 5 hours. Then a cross-country flight of at least 50 kilometers. And then a flight where I could prove that I gained about 1,000 meters on height. That were the 3 conditions. And I got filled these conditions in 1936. And when I got my International Silver Sea, I got the international number 461. And I believe I was probably the youngest in the world who got it there. Most of them actually who got the Silver Sea came from Germany. Then a very big part from Poland.
Oskar was trained by instructor Ludwig Hoffmann at Borkenberge. He flew advanced gliders like the Grunau Baby, designed by Edmund Schneider.
I could fly all the aircraft they got, you know, the most modern one, and they called it the Hochleistungssegelflugzeuge, the high-performance gliders. And I had the possibility to fly all of them. And when I did my first cross-country flight, I made it out from the Borkenberge. I was only 16 years old. And I got a picture of it, you know, when I crashed it. And I made about 60 kilometers, and 50 were already required for the International Silver Sea. I flew here from Borkenberge to an area they call the Sauerland. It is still in the province of Westphalia. It was a very hilly country. When I got there, and suddenly I didn't find any updrafts anymore. And I was thinking, now you have to look fast for a place to land. But I couldn't find one. Only a little paddock near a river. The aircraft was, the glider was damaged, but I wasn't hurt at all. And all the village people came together and looked at this occasion. They saw a little boy coming out there. Anyhow, but this was anyhow recognized for the International Silver Sea. It was my first cross-country flight, you know.
Aged 18, Oskar volunteered for the Luftwaffe and began 6 months of basic soldier training. Upon completion, he was retained as an instructor, a role he disliked as it kept him grounded.
In 1937, I joined the Luftwaffe. I volunteered for 4.5 years, but first I got here my normal basic training. That was ground training every soldier has to go through. It took about 6 months, and then people were sent to the different places where they got the special skills. But I must have been too good, and then they kept me there as an instructor. And I didn't like it, because I joined the Luftwaffe to fly. And so I tried to get out of my commitment for 4.5 years. And I was able to be admitted to a test for Langemark-Studium, they called it. It was a scholarship which only a few got, you know. And I had to go to Heidelberg, in the university in Heidelberg. And I passed the examination, which took about 3 days. Everything was clear for me to join the university in 1939 in September. But then the war broke out, and I was conscripted again, war service.
Conscripted in September 1939, Oskar joined a ground unit building fake airfields and dummy planes for 2 to 3 months. After this initial assignment, he transferred to a flying school in Neustadt-Glew, Mecklenburg, for Luftwaffe pilot training. There, his instruction included both basic and advanced flying, cross-country, formation, aerobatics, instrument, and night flying, along with classroom theory covering navigation, meteorology, engines, and Morse code.
I joined a ground unit which made faked airfields and dummy aeroplanes on it. And after 2 or 3 months, I managed to get to a flying school. I was already a reservist. And this flying school was in Neustadt-Glewe, which is in the province of Mecklenburg. And there I got my training as a Luftwaffe pilot. And that involved actually some basic flying training, then some cross-country flights, formation flights, aerobatics, and things like this. And even some instrument flying and night flying. And theoretically, we were actually taught about navigation, meteorology, engines, and to this time even it was required for a pilot to know the Morse code, and we had to pass an examination to I think it were about IT letters. We had to give and to hear about this 120 letters.
By mid-1940, after completing basic training, Oskar chose to specialize as a fighter pilot at a school near Magdeburg East, focusing on advanced combat skills. In November 1940, Oskar joined Jagdgeschwader 2, Richthofen, stationed at the Channel.
I chose to go to a fighter training school. And this fighter training school was in Magdeburg Ost. It was Magdeburg East, I would say. And there I got the training as a fighter pilot. After the fighter training school, I was sent to the Jagdgeschwader Richthofen. It was Jagdgeschwader 2, and it was stationed at the Channel. To this time, the Jagdgeschwader Commodore was weak, Major weak. But when I joined them, it was I think it was in November 1940. Just a few days before I joined them, Wick was killed in combat somewhere over the Channel,
By mid-1941, Oskar had joined an experimental night fighter squadron, flying Messerschmitt 109s, stationed first in Cologne and then in Bonn-Hangela under Hauptmann Dolenga. The unit aimed to intercept bombers, but was unsuccessful and disbanded by September 1941.
They formed again a night fighter experimental squadron, which were flying the Messerschmitt 109. I joined them. They were to this time stationed in Germany, first in Köln, and then we moved here to Bonn-Hangela. My Staffelkapitän or squadron leader was Hauptmann Dolenga, who was later on killed in the Wilde Sau or wild boar operations. And it was then dismantled. That was about September 1941. After that, I joined here the Jagdgeschwader 1. We were in the German Bight, and we mainly did there some escort flying for protection of the coastal shipping lines.
Oskar was then sent to the Focke-Wulf factory in Bremen to establish a Werkstaffel for test pilots to defend the factory and the surrounding area. He met designer Professor Tank, who designed the FW-190 and led the squadron himself as a skilled pilot.
During this time, I was then sent once to the Focke-Wulf aircraft factory to establish a Werkstaffel. That means a work squadron, so that the test pilots could be involved in the defense of the country and their own premises, naturally. And there, the chief of the Focke-Wulf aircraft factory was the Professor Tank. He was one a very well-known designer. He designed the Focke-Wulf 190 and nearly all Focke-Wulf aircraft. And I got to know him, and we both established the squadron. And then I asked him, who do you think we would put in as a squadron leader? And Professor Tank said, that's no problem, I do it myself. You know, he was one of the top designers. He was also a top pilot, and even made the Fluchtkapitän, that means the captain, because only the best pilots got this title, you know, to use this title, Fluchtkapitän, or flight captain, or captain nowadays in airlines. So I had quite a lot of talks with him, you know, about his future plans, and he told me too that the Air Ministry ordered that the next designs are not called Focke-Wulf anymore, but they were called TI after his name.
In late 1942, part of Oskar's squadron was deployed to North Africa to support Jagerschwader 27 during the retreats from El Alamein. Oskar picked up a new Messerschmitt 109G in Leipzig, but bailed out en route to Munich due to instrument failure in clouds over hills, landing safely by parachute. Delayed, he flew alone to Sicily, then to Tunisia, where he joined under Captain Hans Heydrich.
We were sent first year to Munich, I think it was Munich, and then we went to Leipzig, Erlawerke in Leipzig. That were some aircraft manufacturers who manufactured the Messerschmitt in license, and to pick up some aircraft in Leipzig. And so we went over with our squadron, and then on the way back from Leipzig to Munich, we got in bad weather, or very bad weather conditions, and there was a whole hilly country. We had to go into the clouds to pass the high mountain area, and the clouds were very, very thick and very rough inside. And suddenly my turn and bank indicator, you know, went really wild. I think, no, there's no time to think long, and I was out, you know. And really just opened my parachute, and a few meters later I was on the ground, you know. And then I had to walk for hours, you know, because no people were nearby, you know. And then afterwards I put my parachute somewhere on a place, on a tree or something. It was snow on it too, on the hills. And tried to find the first people, you know.
In Tunisia, the squadron flew escort for Stukas and strafed advancing American supply convoys from Algeria. Outnumbered and short on supplies due to interrupted lines, they faced a more well-supplied Allied force. Oskar encountered P-38 Lightnings during a strafing mission, getting chased but escaping over the aerodrome with help.
I think it was a traffic action, you know, somewhere on one of the roads. And by this time, you know, we were somehow, I got away somehow from others, you know, most quite a few times when there was something going on, you know. Quite often you had to find your way home alone, you know, because you get separated from other people. You couldn't look everywhere. And that was on this occasion the case, that I got separated. And when you are separated, you go and climb to get height, you know, because height is always a safety, you know, because you can convert height into speed, you know. And then suddenly I saw, that was the first time, I saw double fuselage planes. They said, "Oh, that can we have a try on them?" And went up there because I was higher, and wanted to attack them, but in no time at all. I had them on my tile, you know, and I saw already Tunis. We were stationed in Tunis to this time, and I saw already Tunis and said, "No, better you go home," you know, and say to find probably there are still some coming back from the same mission are still in the air and protect you somehow, you know. But I got away and they chased me till I got here to the aerodrome, you know. But there were some aircraft in the air. They engaged them over near the aerodrome, and so that was the first time. And the only time when I struck here some lightnings, you know.
As Tunisia fell, the squadron evacuated to Sicily, to the township of Comiso. Oskar, on holiday when Captain Heydrich was shot down, returned to find the unit split. He picked up a new aircraft in Bari, Italy, before rejoining.
When I was in Tunis, I was due for my yearly holiday again, you know, and they sent me away. And that was in this time when my friend Hans Heydrich was shot down, you know. And when I came back, it was already nearly the end of, was already so that we couldn't hold Tunisia. And so also part of the group were still in Sicily, but part was in Tunisia, but part were already back here, taken back here to Sicily. And so they asked me here before returning to pick up another aircraft because the aircraft were getting shot. And there was an aircraft distribution point in South Italy, in Bari. And I picked one up in Bari and went then to Comiso. And we were then staying in Comiso. And after a while, we went into Sardinia.
Moving to Sardinia, they escorted bombers to Bone Harbour in Algeria. On one mission, Oskar ran low on fuel, making a belly landing in a southern Sicily field, damaging only the propeller. He stayed 6 days with an Italian coastal artillery unit, enjoying good food and hospitality before retrieval.
I thought I had to ditch the aircraft into the water, you know, because I would make it. But I could make it mostly to the most southern point of Sicily and could just get over the coastline and made a belly landing with a fuel-empty aircraft. There was not far away from this was an Italian coastal artillery unit, and they came and took care of me, you know. And I think it could be a good would be a good idea to that they could notify my unit, because I remember on the same aerodrome was Italian fighter unit too, and I asked them to give them a ring, and the Italian fighter unit to notify my unit. Oh yes, that's all right. And they were on the telephone talking like the Italians do. Oh, everything's all right. You know, and I was waiting for 6 days still, somebody, and no one picked me up. And then I saw a German with a motorbike, somebody from a signal corps of the Luftwaffe, and I stopped him and told them to notify. Then next day I was picked up.
Oskar served in a ground unit in Carcassonne, France, instructing new recruits in basic training. By late 1944, he was transferred to the elite Parachute Panzer Division under the command of Hermann Göring. Here, Oskar fought on the ground in East Prussia as Russians advanced onto German soil. Inexperienced in infantry, he manned trenches and became a welfare officer while facing skilled Russian snipers. Morale was quickly waning with news of defeat and talk of the Morgenthau Plan to deindustrialize post-war Germany.
They sent me here to a unit that was this parachute Panzer division of Hermann Göring, and that were really experienced parachutists, fighters. You know, we were already fighting in Monte Cassino in Italy. You know, and they told me stories there too. You know, we said, look, the Americans were shooting all night. You know, to make an attack next morning or so. And they went over through the enemy lines, had a good sleep, and then came back again in the morning. And they were wondering why they were not dead, you know, they're still fighting back, you know. That was the fights in Monte Cassino, you know, in Italy. But anyhow, when I joined them, they were already on German ground in East Prussia.
Oskar transferred to a pilot's pool in Rosenheim, southern Germany, amid rapid American advances. Assigned to a Ramjäger squadron, which involved ramming bombers with aircraft while bailing out before impact, near Halle. Fortunately for Oskar, he couldn't get to the squadron as rail travel was cut off near Marktredwitz. As the Allies closed in, Oskar made attempts to hide from the enemy for 2 to 3 days with another soldier, then finally surrendered to the Americans.
There was a new unit established that was Ramjäger, they called it. To take any aircraft and go onto the tail section of another bomber or something and cut up and fly into it and then bail out, you know. So you had the opportunity still to save yourself. That was not a suicide action. That was something like because you had to have some hope. Yeah? That was the only way I could still get here to flying. But I didn't get there. Halle, that was already in an area where they had to go against the Russians. You know, my traveling line was already cut through between Rosenheim, or that's near Munich, you know, and Halle. It was a town, Marktredwitz, that was already a town near the Czech border. And so there was not any possibility of going any further. And so I got into the bushes, you know. And then later on, I saw getting hungry and things. I think everything is lost now, and I surrendered to an American unit which was there in Marktredwitz.
Captured in Marktredwitz in Bavaria, close to the Czech border, Oskar was transported to Rhine paddocks as a disarmed enemy force, not a POW, thus falling outside the Geneva Convention. At the camp, thousands lay on bare ground without shelter, with minimal food, makeshift toilets, and no medical care. The imprisoned Germans traded valuables such as watches for bread and resorted to eating grass once all supplies had been exhausted.
When we were practically barbed wire fence was set around a paddock, and there were thousands of people in this lying on the bare ground and waiting what happens next. No shelter whatsoever. Food was very low too, not enough, and that was well known all over along the Rhine. They had always these Rhine prisoners on the Rhine paddocks, you know.
From the fenced paddocks, the prisoners were then transferred to a camp in France, with conditions worsening. Although there were tents, they were impossibly overcrowded. There was starvation with no Red Cross aid. After 4 months, the prisoners were released, skin and bones. Oskar was trained home to a bombed Gelsenkirchen, where he was reunited with his parents.
Carriages to France. We didn't know where to, and they transported out to France. And there was a prisoner of war camp that was called Attaché. And there we were, that was even too outside. And at least they had some tents built there. And we could had something over our head. But the tents were so, they put 100 people in one of the tents. There were 50 on one side and the other 50 on the other side. But it was so that when we were sleeping and one turned, the whole row had to turn, like in a sardine can. And that was then in Attaché, One day, one of the American soldiers went through the camp, who was looking, has somebody seen my dog? Everyone was laughing. What do you think? If the dog would run through the starving people, he would come out of the other side, it wouldn't work. And now...
After his release from the American POW camp, Oskar returned to a bombed-out Gelsenkirchen. He reunited with his surviving parents while mourning his missing brother, who was declared dead in 1950. In post-war Germany, Oskar worked a variety of jobs before deciding to migrate to Australia in 1953 aboard the Squadron in search of a new life. Upon arrival, he supported himself with labour, including grape picking and dam construction, gradually overcoming language barriers. In 1956, he earned his Australian commercial pilot's licence and soon joined aerial crop dusters in Melbourne, where he resumed flying. There, he formed friendships with other pilots, including those who had previously flown Spitfires during the war, such as Polish pilots. Reflecting on his Luftwaffe days, Oskar advocated peace. He condemned wars driven by what he described as greed and lies, while honouring honest defence of one's country. Thanks for watching, and if you appreciate what we are doing, please subscribe and support us by checking out our merchandise shop.